Today we have Dr. Stephen Fleming. He is a teacher at MLK, Martin Luther King High School here in Philadelphia.
Pause for that.
That's
No doubt.
right.
There you go.
Mr. Fleming advises students on their Behind the Eyes of Our Youth podcast. He and his students are incredible and they are super passionate about current events. Dr. Fleming highlights the voices of young people in our city. Those high schoolers are really impressive, says Dr. Fleming. They've been featured on Chalk Beat, and we will have a link later on our website so that you can check that out. But give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Dr. Stephen Fleming.
My brother. How are you?
Welcome. Thanks for asking. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for coming to the show and talking a little bit about some of the work that you have been doing, especially as it relates to our young folk, right?
Yes, sir.
Because, they're our future, right? And I think oftentimes they are kind of miscategorized, they're the way that they are interpreted is a little skewed, right? And I think if we have people whom, like yourself, can articulate their positions, I think we'll be in a better space, right? And so let's start there with your work and why did you essentially start that particular genre or scope of work? Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I would venture to argue that they are our now, in addition to being our future. Many of them are 18, and I do work with some seniors.
Okay.
But why? One, it is my position that I didn't give them a voice, but that I elevate their voice. They have a lot to say. They have a lot to communicate. They have a lot they want to get off their chest. And media, like Behind the Eyes of Our Youth podcast, which we started during the pandemic, is one way that they can just speak freely, speak their mind freely on any topic that they want without fear of reprisal, without fear, without any apprehension, without inhibition. So that's why we got into it. It's part of our communications class, which is a dual enrollment class that we partner with Harrisburg University to give them a college credit for. So that's how it got started.
Interesting. That's pretty big. What are, as we are coming out of this election, right? One of the things that we try our best to amplify and give platform to are our young people having a voice in this this noise of politics, right? And also supporting them in performing their civic engagement, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts as it relates to supporting, our young people in civics and them being able to articulate their policies and position? Yeah.
Absolutely. So they do have thoughts on everything from who should be president, who shouldn't be president. And so my thoughts are we ought to listen to them, first of all. As adults, sometimes we need to step away from the mic and give it to our students. As you correctly stated, they are our future. Many of them are our now and have voted in this election. So allowing them to speak freely, understanding that they are voters, one. Two, they will be the leaders of this nation. Think of the youngest person in Congress right now, and he's their age. He's a few years older than them. So what they do, how they think, their thoughts on policies matter. And platform, like I said, like Behind the Eyes of Our Youth podcast, which is a part of our class, gives them that. Gives them that ability to speak freely on any topic of their choosing, including politics, and they have, and they will continue to do so, as I've seen. And I just step back and let them have at it.
I love that.
Speaking about that, because teens have a very raw view of things, how has that challenged you or changed your perspective on views that you've previously had and now have changed it based on your students?
Yeah.
Right. So, they have very raw thoughts and opinions on any myriad number of topics. And personally, some of my positions probably have not changed, but that's okay too. One of the principles that I live by is that we welcome a healthy debate. We welcome healthy conversation, even if we disagree. If everyone agreed, it wouldn't be much of a podcast. It wouldn't be much of a discussion. We'd all just be rehearsing some of the same points that we all have. But I don't voice my opinion much at all. I am quite literally quiet as they are speaking. So we record on Thursdays, and I just step back. I hold the microphones up to them. I don't even do that. They hold the microphones. I just make sure the recording is going, and that we don't, that the mics are working and things like that, because we've messed up in the past. But no, they have at it. It is them. It is student driven.
What kind of topics do they talk about?
Name it. You name it. So they could go from anime to food, whether or not sugar goes in grits. I cannot tell.
Oh, wow.
Whether or not sugar goes in grits, whether or not sugar goes in spaghetti, to politics, to Black lives, to the role of police in the neighborhood, to the cause of gentrification, to you name it. And the way they decide, they submit topic ideas, and I just piece it together on a ballot and let them vote. And that's how we decide what they talk about from week to week.
Nice.
Interesting. One in giving platform to their voice at this moment, what were some of the things as it relates to the issues and concerns that they had going into the election and post-election?
Yeah, so going into the election, they are very much anti. Can I say they are anti one particular party?
I got you. Yeah.
Over the other. Some of the things they were concerned about were some of the things that we hear the adults speaking about.
Okay.
Them having control over their bodies, particularly women and reproductive rights. They were concerned about the economy. They were concerned about taxes and things like that. And they voiced their opinion on it. I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head. But those are some of the pressing issues. They argue that sometimes it doesn't matter which party is in power, that the plight of Black lives seems to be the same. Just recently they recorded an episode where they talked about not being safe walking in certain neighborhoods in Philadelphia proper. So these are some of the things top of mind that I could think of right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Have you seen, and I'm interested in your perspective, have you seen not necessarily a shift, but what do you notice that's different in concerns, policies when you were their age, and how they, articulate their concerns now?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I thought about it as much as they're thinking about it. I was interested in politics, but they are able to voice them, and their opinions are informed. It could be the prevalence of social media, which I did not have. Cell phones were not a thing. And then, I was 19 when I got my first phone. There was no internet connectivity or anything like that. You had to load it with minutes.
We had beepers.
We that we did.
Turn it upside down. It reads a word.
Or not, because they thought you were a drug dealer. So,
Yeah, how about that?
but they were available. They were available. So I think with the prevalence of traditional media and social media, they have this information quite literally at their fingertips. So while I was interested, it's whatever I caught on the World News at 6:30, whereas they can immediately pop open their phone. It's on their social media feed. If they have assignments in it, which every now and again, some of the teachers might assign, they have to be involved in it. Our current affairs, we had to get a newspaper, and read an article and report back on it. But it's literally at their fingertips. So their ability to be able to articulate it literally at the drop of a dime, I could bring them in here right now, and it wouldn't take much for them to get started at all. Ask them a question, and they're going for 45 minutes.
Fantastic. Well, we love the youth here. We love the young people. They're more than welcome. One thing we always say to the show is, once you come to the show, you're a friend to the show anyway.
Awesome.
So we'll extend that invitation if they ever want to be a part of that, and you can come with them. Absolutely. And so, it's interesting that you say that, and I like the idea that what we're seeing is a switch in cultures now. We're seeing a shift in how we perceive what is important to us, right? Because thinking where I was at 18, 19, I could care less about politics, but more about, am I going to get locked up? Right? We were talking about prison reform, and mass incarceration, and that was kind of on the forefront. But now it's interesting to see that they're pulling back the layers and digging deep, right? What do you think that is a result of? Do you think it is a social media thing that got them more involved? Do you think that we are being, I guess, more responsible in articulating messages? What do you think? What can you attribute, their interest in politics to?
Right. I think it's all the above, to be honest with you. And as you asked the question, I was thinking about 2020. I think that perhaps maybe shoved them into politics where they may not have been interested before. Unfortunately, with the murder of Breonna Taylor,
for sure.
Ahmaud Arbery,
George
Floyd,
That's right. That's right. Say their name. Yeah.
So with their murders, and we had no choice but to be glued to our social media because we couldn't do anything. We were locked at home.
That's right.
Or television. I think that sparked perhaps this modern era of activism, of political intrigue, etc. I really do think and plus, I think teachers are starting to not be as apprehensive about sharing political views, even if it's on the low, whereas we're taught not to. It's kind of hard not to, because not articulating a position is articulating a position in many respects, because so I think all of the above. In addition to the fact that the prevalence of social media, and you can't escape it. Influencers are into politics now. Just recently, some of the students said that perhaps a lot of youth voted for the former president because I forget the name of the influencer who had him on the show on a Twitch feed or something like that. Yeah. So they thought that could have been one reason why perhaps some of the youth gravitated toward him.
Interesting. You would think that you have like your Beyoncés and your Meg Thee Stallions, they were doing some things for the Democratic Party. You would think that maybe that was a draw. Have you heard anything from the young people you work with that says that was enticing for them to vote for a particular party? Have you heard anything like that?
No, not at all. Actually, not. I don't think not the students that I work with are interested necessarily in these superstars positions. I have heard Dr. Fleming, I was talking to my older brother, or OG down at the barbershop was saying this, that, and the third. Sure. They were saying that XYZ, things like that. But they don't bring up, I don't think they're as influenced by them as perhaps mass media would like for us to think that they are.
For sure.
I've also learned working with the students that they're not always as progressive as we tend to think that they might be. Sure. They're very moderate left. Just listening to them, even just recently, an episode that we recorded. But I don't think they love their music. That's what they listen to them for. But I don't think they're swayed by their political opinion. I think if they went the other way, then they might have something to say. If they went, hard right, that they might have something to say about it. But no, not influenced in my experience.
Dr. Fleming, is there a teacher or mentor from your life that may have been mentored to you or have helped you with this leadership of teaching youth?
That's a great question.
There is. So shout out to Miss Raj Jones Johnson, my 6th grade science teacher. So I went to a very selective middle school in the city, public school, somewhere along in the Spring Garden area of the city.
We're not going to name it?
Masterman.
Yes.
I didn't know if I was allowed. No.
Absolutely.
Masterman Middle School for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And black people were in the minority then. We could just say that out loud. We were in the minority, and she recognized that. And so she was hard on me, very, very hard on me. And I didn't understand.
In a good way or bad way?
In a good way. That's a really good question.
She saw your potential.
She said as much, because I caught up with her years later, so she was still teaching or active with our union when I became a teacher. So I did have opportunities to speak with her. And one day I asked her straight out why she was so hard on me. I needed answers. Because I found myself teaching like her, being hard on the students that I had at the time when I was teaching elementary school in 6th grade in particular. And she said it to exactly what you said, that she saw that I came from a neighborhood public school, which was wonderful. But it wasn't as challenging as she would have liked for it to have been. And she said she saw the raw stuff in me. Those are her exact words, the raw stuff. And she felt as though she needed to mold it in a world where people were coming from money, where they could do projects. I'm thinking of a project she gave us in sixth grade. I still remember because it was somewhat traumatic for me. But she gave us the directions. We had to make something that worked. And so coming from elementary school, elementary science, a battery and a wire and a little bulb worked.
Yeah.
And so I put it, or my father helped me put it together. But then I walked into a classroom where they made cartoon reels, where they made robots that were going across the floor on command. And I have at Masterman
wow.
in middle school in sixth grade.
Yeah.
And you with your battery.
And me with my battery and my light and my wire. So that is what I remember. And I didn't get a good grade. But I think she referred back to that as we became colleagues then.
Oh, wow.
And she said, they came from money. They have parents that are into these fields and they help them with it, with their projects. And you did the best you could. But she challenged me. She was a black one, Ms. Roz Jones Johnson, one of the most impactful teachers. There are quite a few, but I think of her as one of the most impactful. Shout out to Mr. Young, an older Jewish gentleman who I had too in ninth grade. And his exact words, and I'll never forget, and I think about it to this day, he told us even as freshmen that and I quote, there are white people in the suburbs who don't believe you can do this. Not that you're lazy and don't want to, but can't. And I will never forget that. And so that drives me. What do you mean I can't? I'm sitting here with a doctor. What do you mean I can't? I can and I will. And I push my students to the same. Even in a comprehensive neighborhood high school like King, and I'm there intentionally because I did have opportunities to go elsewhere, but I refused.
Wow. Nice. Can I just shout out King? I'm an alum of King. My sister is actually a barber teacher at Martin Luther King High. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah, shout out to King.
Awesome.
So I'm interested in, as we talk about those high schoolers, what would you say is the biggest misconception that we as a more mature generation or demographic, what is the biggest misconception that we have as it relates to our young people?
Yeah, indeed. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is just what Mr. Young told us years ago, that that they're lazy and don't want to learn. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Neighborhood high schools like King get a bad rap because historically, we've heard different things make the news and, whatnot, the fights and what have you. It happens, yes. Also, all right, we offer 2 dual enrollment college classes, and I teach one of them at Martin Luther King High School. Also, there are students who want to come to school, who get scholarships to go to some of the top universities across the country. Also, there's a rich multicultural student body there, Haitians, Mexicans, and they bring with them a richness in culture that is infectious in a good way and kind of spills off into the staff and to their students. So I think the biggest misconception is that they don't want to learn, these kids, put that in air quotes, these kids don't want to be here, they're not interested in education, and nothing could be farther from the truth. They want adults who believe in them. They want adults who are tough on them and love on them in a positive way. And those are the ones who they tend to gravitate towards. They call out the lazy ones. They do it. Their words. They call out the classes that we don't do nothing in there. Doc, can I come to your class? Because at least I'm learning. Their words. So I think those are some of the biggest misconceptions, that they don't want to learn, that they're not interested in their future, that they're not interested in learning. And that is absolutely a falsehood. It is a lie. They just want to be challenged. They want to be pushed and need adults to do it.
Wow.
Now, speaking on that, like you just said about teachers who aren't teaching, when that happens, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but when are the principals in the community of the school saying, hey, we're going to have to talk to this, to get involved? Because I'm not going to say that hasn't happened to me. Like, we're in class, first day, second day is cool, but then you get to a point like, well, what am I here for? Right. And then you start, doing other things. You really want to be there to learn, and you want the structure.
To learn. So that's an excellent question. So shout out to the students who have no problem speaking up about that to the principals, to the vice principals, to on the podcast, because we did record an episode a couple years ago where they did call out the school writ large on that. So that's one thing. Two, I don't know that the students necessarily go home and tell parents like we used to. I don't know that it could be happening, but I'm not sure that that's happening. But the students themselves have absolutely no problem.
But that's what I mean. Calling them out, one thing, but are they as someone in the community of the teachers, like, do you see where their voices are heard? Because calling them out is great, but if their voices aren't heard, that falls on deaf ears. So do they feel like they're being heard and actions are being done?
That's a good point. It might depend on the student themselves, to be honest with you. They know with me they have a open platform, but to the extent to which they feel as though it's being heard, that's a good question. That's worth further exploration, in my opinion. Do we have administrators who listen to students? Absolutely, they do. That I can shout out the principal and vice principals of Martin Luther King. They will listen to them. We might even see an increase perhaps in some of our observations, to be honest, not to put no teachers on blast, but we might see an increase in some of our observations. But I think they do listen. Are we also faced with a huge shortage of teachers, and may that have an impact or to some extent on decision making? I don't know. It could, because no one's knocking down the door to come teach. So there's that. Some would blame the union. The union does not hire and fire teachers. The union makes sure processes are fair. Right. I have been the subject, not where I am, but in the past, of principals who were out for retribution for teaching, because that's I'm not lazy. I just want to teach, literally. But our union is there just to make sure the process is fair. Teachers have gotten fired. Right. I've seen it with my own two eyes. So I do appreciate a body that just makes sure that the process is fair and not capricious and arbitrary.
Now, how is it as far as safety? Like, I remember back in the day they started like metal detectors and stuff. Are they still enforcing that in the schools? And do the kids feel like, hey, I'm going through a metal detector, like that's a good thing, like you go through at the airport, like, hey, I know I'm safe? Or do they feel like, man, this is corny, like,
Right. I like that question too. So, because I've asked them. So yes, we still do have metal detectors. And I put out a poll on my class Instagram a few years ago what their thoughts were and feelings were about it. And they, at the time, I haven't asked students, I guess recently, at the time were completely in favor of it, and which was a shock to me as a researcher. Sometimes you want the results to be a particular way so that you can go and talk on this particular topic a particular way, but the students will surprise you. Like I said, they're not as progressive, not all the time, as sometimes we think they are. So they were completely in favor. Why? Their words to me, and I screenshotted it because I wanted to save it, were, Doc, you don't know all the time what's going on in the neighborhood, and some people could be trying to sneak certain things into the school. So these were their words. So I think the main students' gripe this year is that it takes so long because there's really like one door, and then they start receiving students at 7:30. I think that's their main gripe, is the length of time that it takes to go through it all.
Thank you for that.
You have some?
No.
Oh, okay.
He actually went into something else I was thinking.
Awesome.
So what would you tell? So, okay, I'm going to back up a little bit because I'm interested in addressing some of kind of the nation conversation as it relates to black men and black men kind of, being disconnected, or they need to be more involved, right? How does that translate to the youth, right? Some of the boys, have you heard them express concerns or interested in policies that reflect them?
That's another good question. So first of all, let me shout out to the brothers at Martin Luther King High School because we had quite a few brothers there that both teach and coach, teach, serve in supportive roles. So kudos to them. Have the students necessarily broached issues of black men?
Yeah.
I don't recall, to be honest, whether or not it's come up directly in class or anything to that effect. Do I believe they appreciate the black men that I can see visibly in their lives on a day-to-day basis? Absolutely.
Fantastic.
That much I can say. So, they might not always be open. Every now and again, you might have a few over these. I've been at King for 8 years, been teaching for 18. Every now and again, but it's not always a big topic of discussion. Like I said, they love on and appreciate the brothers, the unks, the OGs that are in their life at King. That much I can say for sure. There is such a bond and such a connection and a realness, and everyone approaches it differently. Not every black male teacher at King is the same, but we all bring something a little different, whereas one might be love on them hard, constant with the hugs and the pounds and whatnot, and the other might be more of a disciplinarian, sit down and get this work done, bro, because this is what we here, and others, I think of our football coach who is tough on them academically and on the football field. So we have a wide variety, and I can appreciate the sisters who every now and again will say, Doc or Coach, I need y'all to holler at so-and-so. They ain't getting no work done, this, that, and the third. And then, we double team them. They get it in class in 305 with me. They get it in practice with Coach Malik.
So
they
it's
might
the tribe.
get about it's
The
a
tribe.
tribe for
There you go.
real.
It's the
It's a
tribe.
tribe for real of black men and black women, and we have multiracial teachers, but just focusing on the black ones for right now, since we're only 7% of the public school teaching force nationwide.
Wow.
7 for every 100 teachers are black. 2
What?
are
Wait.
black men.
What?
Say that again.
Oh, say it
Let's
a
say
little
that
bit louder
Black
for those in the
men?
back. Testing 1, 2, 3. So yes, 7%. This is from the U.S. Department of Education. 7% of teachers, public school teachers in this country, are black. Only 7. 2%, I think it's fallen because it's not a huge demand anymore. 2% was already low, but 2%, less than 2%, are black men. So 2 for every 100 teachers, public school teachers in this country, are black men. So when you have a place like King, where I don't know what the percentage is, but we have quite a few brothers in teacher roles, coaching roles, and supportive roles, that matters. That I consider King like a HBCU on the low, because it really feels like that when you walk up in there. That's just a type of misconceptions. Oh, King is this. No, walk in the door. We've had guest teachers that say, I heard so much about this school in a negative way, but when they walk in, it's something completely different. So podcasts like Behind the Eyes of Our Youth, we serve to be that counter narrative to the dominant narrative that is out there about neighborhood public schools in general, but Martin Luther King specifically.
I love the title, Behind the Eyes of Our Youth.
That's right. They came up with it. So everything was them. They came with that in 2020. They came up with the mantra. They come up with the topics. All I do is market them and put them out there.
There you go.
Just to hear about the high school that I went to from 9th to 12th grade, I mean, walking in, the balcony is there, the murals.
The murals.
And I remember how, you yelling up at your people that's up top, and it's just, it was always love there.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there are negative things. What do you think that some of the black schools are missing that a lot of the other white schools don't? Like, what are our challenges that we don't get that they do?
Gotcha.
As an educator.
So some are basics, like climate control, and I'm not talking about behavior. I'm talking about actual climate control.
Actual climate control.
Because little things, like we had this little heat spell recently in
no
November,
AC,
and of course we didn't
Wow.
expect that, but by then the systems were already switched over to heat, so it was hot inside of King. So little things like that. I think of fresh paint, So we can talk about the aesthetics, and to me that matters, because a school that looks as beautiful as King is, and it is a beautiful, beautiful school, and people that come in are just astounded at just how beautiful the campus is and the potential that it has. So in addition to the aesthetics, some basics, chemistry labs, additional dual enrollment or AP courses. In some cases, a math teacher. Like
Wow.
we need a math
Oh,
teacher.
wow.
One math teacher, one in particular for algebra and geometry, and just put it out there. You know, I think about things like that. So some things that people in the suburbs or in richer parts of the city within the school district of Philadelphia might take for granted, we just get so, I'm not even going to say accustomed to it, but we're so used to making do and
Yeah.
patching things up. You know, we've done so much with this saying for so little, for so long, that we feel like we can do, you know, almost anything with nothing at all. And it shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Appreciate, you know, our quarterback for donating air conditioners to our facilities. Yes, shout out to him. Also, the PA legislator should do what it's supposed
Yeah, I
to
was
do
gonna
and
say that.
adequately fund, particularly black and brown schools that are in neighborhoods that are impoverished. This is just the reality. So we need a little bit more than they might need in the suburbs. And that's not, oh, you taking away. No, we're making sure that the playing field is level.
I'm glad you said that
Yeah.
because I was just getting ready to ask you, with you being on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to them to say, hey, this is what we need? What you see that can be done?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, why don't we have these things? Why are we the low man on a totem pole
Literally.
in line to get them?
Indeed. So I made a list. I actually texted out some colleagues
Come on
a
now.
few weeks ago. 'Cause, you know, I had a particular meeting. You know, some teachers were invited to speak with the Jalen Hurts Foundation.
Okay.
And so I made a list. I text teachers, and they sent me lists, and everything is just some basics, literally beakers, you know, chemistry labs. And King has the space. We do. We have a nice, beautiful science wing that is underutilized because we just don't have the personnel to be able to use these spaces to their fullest potential. We have teachers, you know, we have our teachers, but you need a lab assistant. You know, if you're going to be
Yeah.
handling gas and chemicals and whatnot, you need somebody else in that room. Climate staff to make sure, you know, kids cut. That's everywhere. It's not relegated to the neighborhood school. But to manage things like that. So we have this beautiful, beautiful space, a beautiful arts wing, music suite. You can picture the school, you know, and it's underutilized. No fault to anybody at King. It's just that we just don't have the people. Like I said, we need an algebra teacher. So I guess us asking for a music teacher is considered extra. You know,
Yeah, I
or
want to go
lab
back to
assistants.
this math teacher thing.
Yeah, and it's
Because-
very real. We had one to retire, you know, which, yes, you know, kudos. After years of service, she taught a teacher that's there now.
Okay.
But we just, I think the fill rate for teachers as of August was 97%, which is awesome. You know, that's high. But 3% actually means something. So when 3%, I don't know what the raw numbers would be, but I know at King it means a math teacher, and it means at one point we needed an autistic support teacher. And these are just like very real. Now I think we've contracted out, and we do have someone there to support the autistic class in particular, and the Spanish teacher. So so there are two where teachers are constantly covering the classes, or we're getting substitutes for them.
How many math teachers do you have?
So King has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish.
Okay.
So we have about one per grade level. Our freshman
that makes
class though
sense.
is pretty large. So for them we have two, but they're large enough that we needed like one other teacher to come down from the upper grades to teach the lower grades. So that person would teach algebra and our juniors geometry. So mainly geometry, but one section of algebra. So you do have geometry classes that need a teacher, and that one algebra class that needs a teacher.
And how does that work? When you need a teacher and you're short a teacher, I'm sure that that workload now falls on the teachers you have there because now you're splitting classes or the classes are larger for the ones you have.
Right.
Whose responsibility is to staff the schools with teachers?
So that's
is it
a
the
nuance
school board or
discussion,
like
too,
how does that work? Is a principal like doing
Right.
job postings for
Right.
teachers?
How
Like,
about that?
Like how does it work?
So the short answer, I know some principals that actually do post on social media for teachers, and it should not fall on the principal to post to get
Yeah.
teachers in your building.
I didn't think it did.
No, not at all. And I guess through connections and whatnot, it may work. We used to go through a process called leveling. So leveling looked at numbers in schools and reassigned teachers up until I think like Columbus Day or something like that, or it beginning at Columbus Day, I think, accordingly. I get it. There's pros and cons. One, we will probably have a math teacher and an autistic support teacher. The con is now you didn't pull that teacher out of another building, and so now you've disrupted the climate in that building. Additionally, we see students enroll in all of our buildings all year long. So I personally was not a fan of leveling because I've seen 3 or 4 teachers taken out of King last year. And if we hadn't done that, perhaps we wouldn't be in the fix that we're in right now.
Gotcha.
Then I guess on the flip side, if I'm being objective, I'm being fair, if we did level, I do suppose we would have the teachers that we need this particular school year. So that process was meant to provide buildings that had more students than others or more classes than others, the human resources that they needed. At the same time, you were also taken from another school. Like King, we see enrollment throughout the year. That's just fact. So our argument against it was you're taking these teachers, and we know that the kids are coming all year long. And they did and do. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Wow.
But it mainly falls on the school district itself. It shouldn't be up to principals, although they do reach out and then help whoever I guess responds, forwards names to the 440 or whatever the case might be to get them through.
So we're trying to. So I'm trying to. On the show, we always talk solutions, right? And you know, as well as Martin Luther King is doing right now, especially as it relates to North Philly. Nicetown, shout out to Nicetown in that area. But I'm trying to understand what would be the ask, right? Is it support from our legislators, like city council, state rep? Is it school district? What are you doing? Is it monies to get in to get teachers? Like, what would be the ask? What would be the solution in getting the support for a school like Martin Luther King and others, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Others for sure, to be clear. So everything you said would be the ask. City Council, I think, puts up a great deal of money that the state has not. So, and some may disagree with me, but I think they're doing what they can. Okay. We see the imbalance in Harrisburg. In fact, our system of funding education in Pennsylvania was recently ruled unconstitutional because it was not fair. And it was ruled unconstitutional by a relatively conservative judge.
Wow.
So, and she charged that the legislator go back and fix it, in other words. The extent to which they fixed it this past budget cycle has yet to be determined, but it was ruled unconstitutional. So the ask would be, yes, I would still lobby City Hall for more. Okay. I would definitely lobby Harrisburg for more. On the teacher and human resource side, not many people are going into education like they used to. Yeah. And so that is problematic. Schools of education are seeing declining in enrollment. And you know, one, you can see the way teachers are being treated. That could turn people off. Okay. It certainly does not pay relative to other professionals out there. If you're 22, fair. 23, and you're coming out as a nurse making 80 G's, 90 G's from the rip, and then you talk about coming into education, you make it, I think, was the starting salary now, I don't know what, 50, 55 now. And you know, that's not a whole lot if you have a family, if you living in the city, and rent a car, mortgage. Just rent by itself. You know what I mean? So, you know, it might be good if you by yourself, you're 21 and you're single, no kids, no car. But I don't know if that's everybody's testimony. No house, yes. Listen, roommates up the wazoo. So the ask would be, yes, I do believe the money is there. I do not think for 1 second that the money does not exist. Okay. I don't think the political will exists at all. In particularly in Harrisburg, writ large, I do believe we have quite a few. I think it's Senator Vincent Hughes and others who push and push and push to try to get what we need here in the city of Philadelphia. And he compares his district, you know, covers some parts of Philadelphia and parts of Montgomery County, and he says things like you can literally cross over the county line and see quite a stark difference in education funding.
So is that a Texas thing? Like how? So I'm trying to understand why is it so different? Like you said, literally just crossing over City Line Avenue is completely different, right? And so what does that come from so people can kind of understand like the differences and if they can even actually help, you know?
Right. Yeah. So a great deal of public school funding does come from property taxes. Okay. So then, if that's the case, all you got to do is look at your rich suburbs and
sure.
the fewer schools, and I'm just put it out there, and less other types of schools where the money is funneled away from the public school system. And they have it. And then you have parents that where there is a difference, don't have a problem writing a check to make up there because they can, and then you come to Philadelphia, where, well, now property taxes seem to be increased, but where generally we're the biggest poorest city, the largest poorest city in the country, and that's not Steve Fleming saying it. This is the Economist saying the largest poorest city, the largest poorest. I think I'm saying that right in the country. That matters. Also, there are some things that I think City Hall can do to help bring money in. They had an abatement program that exists. So you're talking about, at one point it was 10 years. It's been a while since I followed up on it. I think it's been reduced. I'm thinking of politicians who fought against it. But you're literally giving away money to developers for, at that time, 10 years. Again, somebody could correct me what it is right now, but it was 10-year abatement. So that's property tax relief for 10 years.
That they don't have to pay into our system, our schools.
And you just look around the city. There must still be something going on because clearly nothing has stopped builders from building in this city. There are cranes everywhere. And I think about how, and it's nice to see this boom. And then people like me say, also, it would be great to see our public schools experience that. The new cruise ship is about to dock. We're about to get a cruise ship, port down at down in South Philly. I don't know if I guess it's still in the planning stages. But I'm like, another thing without fixing up. Can we get some air? We just want air and heat. Because we still dismissing schools early in the summertime. When we go back in August because they are not air conditioned.
And they had to take into consideration that our climate period has changed and has shifted.
There we go.
Because I think the standard is heat and air. Well, heat goes off in April, air comes on, and then air goes off in October and heat comes on. So you didn't shut the air off and got heat on in October, and we just had an 80-degree day in November.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Crazy,
It was like November 5th.
It was hot. I brought my fan from home because I was just that hot.
Right.
In November. That's problematic for me.
Yeah. But it's when it's in public places like that, and that's all public places, buses, and we don't have, in schools, you don't have the ability to adjust.
Right. Exactly right.
One last question, Dr. Fleming. They took a lot of curriculum that was for kids and that was for realistic things that happen, like shop or home ec. How, as a teacher, when you have to follow a curriculum, do you stay in that curriculum or... And I don't want to put you on the spot because I know. But how do we really enrich our kids when they're giving you this curriculum and they're telling you, oh, don't talk about the base theory, the critical base, like don't teach.
Critical race theory,
right. Don't teach these things, but these things are important for our children. So how do you, as an educator, go about that?
So, I think there needs to be a certain degree of a risk tolerance because I'm a teacher, and I have no problem saying that even here, because what I don't appreciate is certain politicians trying to erase our history. I am here. We exist. Get over it. Build a bridge and get over it. And we're not going away at all. We didn't survive this long. We ain't going nowhere no time soon. But to your point, I think there's a certain degree of risk tolerance. Yes, the school district does say teach the curriculum, but there's ways to also infuse these principles and these historical truths into the curriculum as well. I'm fortunate where I don't teach a traditional core subject class, so I have a great deal of leeway in what I can teach and present. But even though I was a full-time English teacher, we had our discussions, and it was based off of the curriculum. We just asked questions, and then it just led to discussion. Isn't that what you want? Engagement and all this other kind of stuff. Well, what better way than to introduce this particular question or this particular topic that's based off of what you told me to read with the class? You shouldn't have told me to read it.
So,
talk about
what are your thoughts on like taking out home ec and shop and things that would help the youth as they become older?
Right. I think we need them all. We need them them all. These are some of the basics that I think many of our suburban schools take for granted. I wish in fact, a student just recently, last week as in recently, told a colleague next door how much he wished that we had these things, his words. And he didn't grow up in an era where you had home ec and all that, and shop in particular. But he said, we learned the same thing over and over again. His words, and I quote, he's bored. We learn the same thing every year. Why we got to keep learning the same thing? I want to be able to do stuff. I want to be able to, I think he wants to take up photography and things like that. Again, things that aren't a second thought in some schools. It just is. But unfortunately, in our schools, art is a luxury. Photography is a luxury. What kind of sense does that make? And so I believe they should be in our schools. Period. I believe it all should be, and it shouldn't be a choice or you can have this or that. Nope. Give me music, give me art, give me photography, give me the television studio, give me a podcast studio. Hello. Give me all of that. Give us, our students, and by me I mean them, all of these. So they have options and they can graduate with certificates perhaps in some of these fields and go right into the workforce if that's what they want to do, or be 2 steps ahead in college and whatnot.
I want to pull up this statement. Great interview. Ryan Fleming said, great interview. I want to pull up this comment by Liberty Twitch, someone who watches us constantly and has, different perspectives, right? They said, in our country, test scores are going backwards. We're no longer a smart country like we used to be. It says standards have gone down. So what do you say as it relates to a worldview, right? I know you're in King, but as a worldview, as it relates to, test scores, American test scores, right, as it relates to the global economy and where we fit into that.
Test scores are easy to look at.
Right.
It is simple to look at test scores and think that we are producing, robots. One of my mantras, one of my thoughts is that there is a story behind every number. So, okay, test scores are dipping. Okay, I see how students test. I see how they go through benchmarks in 2 minutes. Are you telling me that this student is not smart or is not really proficient in advance because 1, they're bored, 2, they don't feel like taking another test, 3, they might not be great test takers. I remember a clear situation when I taught 3rd grade. This student was brilliant, very well read, very articulate, a presidential historian, all right, because he, at 9 years old, knew all the presidents, knew things about the presidents. But every single time he'd take a benchmark, he'd bomb. And I'm like, wait, are you trying to tell me? Like, what? I don't understand. And so he's one. He was one. Now he's grown now. Out of so many. So I get it. I totally understand. But test scores are also arbitrary, in my opinion. The standard for proficiency moves. And then if you have instances where the same company that produces the solution is also the one that produces the test, well, then what motivation would there be for them to be any kind of independent? If my company makes the benchmark and my company makes the tutoring solutions, then I have the ability to change what proficient looks like. Right. So I get it and I understand, and I'm not putting down the position that test scores. But test scores were dipping in the 80s, and look at the era that we're living in. That's the same generation that produced some of the very things that we are experiencing and enjoying right now, technologically speaking, medically speaking, etc. So I get it, but I take test scores with caution, especially being on the inside and watching how they test. I am the test coordinator, so I'm responsible for administering the standardized tests at King in particular and looking at the data and things like that. And I see them get done in 2 minutes.
And whole brain therapy is another type of approach where you teach kids, where you use your hands and you use creativity, and they don't take tests well, but their whole brain theory is when it's the stimulation of the brain. So
absolutely,
I probably am one of them kids.
and it's okay too. Yeah, it seems to be okay that some people don't do well in school and can produce a Facebook and a Twitter and things like that, and others seem to have to do well in school. Period, and still are struggling to catch up with the rest of society writ large. But
Yeah. So one of the things that we do here is we're inclusive with everyone, right? We try not to lean anyway, right? And
Understood.
so we invite kind of like contrasting positions on the thing. And so so I just want to pull this up real quick. It says because the left keeps lowering standards. Now, I won't blame any party, but is there an argument to say that standards are different now than it was before? Is that a legitimate argument, so to speak?
I'm going to push back against that. I don't think standards are lower.
Okay.
I do believe there are different ways that students learn, and though we are taught as educators to diversify our instruction and differentiate is the term,
Right.
our instruction to meet students' individual needs, yet we test them in a very standard way.
Yeah.
All year long, I'm differentiating my lesson plans. To your point, I'm working, creating lesson plans that include the arts, because this group of students learn better when there's music or by creating music.
Yeah, for sure.
And they can learn the content that way. This group of students, they need to move. You know, they are hyped, they need to move. So we create activities where they can get up and move and whatnot. But then come May, everyone's with paper and pencil and has to be quiet for 2 hours.
Ah, yeah, how about
So
that?
I'll
I agree
teach
with
with differentiated methodology, but we assess standardized. We provide standardized assessments. That's a problem for me. And then I will also put out there that I think some of us as adults, I don't know that we could sit through a 2 or 3 hour test
I know I
session
couldn't.
for a week.
Yeah,
You
I know I
know,
couldn't.
and well, I think it will be a challenge even for some of us. Some of us as adults, we need to move.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to listen to music. We need to tap our fingers, but yet we
That's right.
require rows, silence, and drill and kill.
Got you.
And speaking about that, do you think that that's like what they call the prison to school pipeline, as to how prisons are set up and the structure of it, even down to the lunching? Like,
Yeah.
What's your
the
thoughts
short
on
answer
that?
is absolutely yes. There was research that suggests that prisons are built based off of third grade test scores. That's a problem if we're looking at third graders and how they test and determine that by the end of third grade, if they haven't made XYZ progress,
Yeah.
which who determines what that looks like? You know, like I said, it's so subjective.
for sure.
That then it's suggested that prisons are then built off of third grade test scores. So the prison, yes, I do believe that some of our practices in school lend themselves to this pipeline. When we don't, for example, let's take some students that have individualized education programs, IEPs.
IEPs, yeah.
In my brain, they still need to be challenged. And a challenge could look different per student. If we as teachers don't push them to their fullest potential, not to overload, but if we don't push them to their fullest potential, they'll keep going straight on through the 12th grade, uninhibited, because they're scared of some lawyer. And I get it. It's a lot of legal stuff. I totally understand. At the same time, I remember years ago explaining to someone, so you telling me he can't do nothing? Like nothing? Like pass for what? Pass? He didn't do anything. And it wasn't outside of his realm of possibility, of his ability. But I do think sometimes that some of our practices contribute to suspension. My colleagues might get on me for this. But sometimes I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes everybody needs a break sometimes. But when you go on weeks and days, I don't think we do that anymore, writ large. But now you're way behind. So who's catching the student up? Like I said, they've come up. The school district has backed off of that a lot. I think even city council passed either a resolution or a law, or it was a school district K to fifth grade. I don't think you can no longer suspend, or there's some language in there that dials back suspensions for elementary school students. But some of our practices can lend to it, and I can be humble enough to admit that we need to change some of those ways. Sometimes, and I was just thinking about this recently, sometimes we as teachers can be antagonists, and I can talk about us because I'm us, all right. But sometimes we we do too much. Like, let them come in the room and sit down, before we just start yip-yapping. Like, really. And then when they get mad, then, go to the office. What, man, just shut. Like, you're doing too much. Sir, ma'am. Like, they didn't walk in the door and say good morning.
Yeah.
Like, you want the principal yelling at you when you first come in the door?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So sometimes we are antagonists.
Not even knowing what happened
Yeah.
from where they're coming from.
Nothing.
Don't know how their night ended or how their morning
if they
started.
even had a night.
Yeah.
And those are very real life situations and circumstances. Our children, kindergarten on up, take on adult roles that they should not have to.
Absolutely. So Clarissa states, I remember those classes, sewing, cooking, and woodworking class. We need more career and technical education classes. What's your thoughts?
Agreed. 100%. Agreed 100. I think you would tamp down on some of the undesirable behaviors. I'll put that in air quotes because sometimes they're just hungry. If we had these options for them, something to look forward to, in addition to the standardized English. And I'm speaking as an English teacher who loves it, but sometimes it's boring. So I try to bring my personality into the classroom to make it much more fun and exciting. But yes, I agree 100% with Clarissa's saying.
So Katrina says, what a great discussion. So many nuggets to digest, Dr. Fleming. They're giving you nods. Another contrasting position, it says, some California school districts have thrown out algebra as a course because it somehow is racist. Really? And society is better off now. Oh my God. Right. And so that's some of the contrasting perspective and that comes from somewhere, right? That comes from somewhere. And so we invite contrast, right? Absolutely. And so where do we go? Because we always talk solutions. So where do we go now? You know what I'm saying? Where do we go now as a community, as a neighborhood? Shout out to North Philly. I'm from West, but where do we go as a community of educators to push our children, our young people in the right direction? Where do we go now?
Understood. So I could totally understand perhaps re-examining some of the math that we do offer. And perhaps we should, offer more pragmatic math. I totally agree with that. King even offered a course called, I think it was financial literacy or something to that effect. Yeah. So teaching them how to do taxes. Let's go beyond talking about doing it, just do it. Let's teach them how to do taxes. Let's teach them how to pay bills. I did it when I had a seminar class last year. But where do we go from here? One, I think the community needs to understand that you have a voice. Perhaps you don't know where to go for that voice to be heard, but email your legislators. When I taught at the elementary school, I emailed them all the time. They knew my name, and somebody came back and said, oh, yeah, we know Mr. Fleming. Oh, my gosh. So, yes, get on their nerves. So emailing those legislators, going to board meetings. Thursdays is board meeting day for the School District of Philadelphia. Email the legislators in Harrisburg, City Hall, communicate with them on Twitter. They will respond back. Things like that. It matters. Come with the issue, but then also here's what I think should happen. I like the position of the show, offering solutions. I had a former principal say, we've praised the problem long enough. What should we do?
What should we do?
Because we're doing enough talking. And Harrisburg is where I would definitely begin. Find out who your representative is in Harrisburg and get them to fund our schools, period. Anything that Jalen Hurts, different other ones, should be extra. They shouldn't be contributing to what our basic needs are.
Absolutely.
We'll take, if, let's say, my podcast, okay, we'll take extra equipment. But, certain things should just be a part of the curriculum.
That's right.
It is elsewhere, and it's not, and it's just is what it is. So that's what I think should happen. Harrisburg has the money. They can do whatever you want. That you see they're building all over the place, and they're not building, for free. They're getting some tax breaks in there, and I think some of those tax breaks need to be rolled back to help our students.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This was a done. You have one more question?
One last question.
Go ahead.
We can talk to him all day.
I know. With a lot of the youth in Philadelphia that they're saying is why our crime has upticked. The mob stuff and all that stuff. Do you think that parents need to be held responsible? They're thinking about saying, hey, a parent now is going to have to pay a fine for their child. What do you think is the solution behind getting these kids off the streets in a mob-like way and the things that they're doing?
Right. So one, I don't know that finding the parents is what is they could very well be working hard themselves and may not be able to be home to necessarily supervise. So I'm not in favor of that. Two, one, I think if our students did have more work opportunities, internship opportunities, etc., that might also reduce it. Three, I'm curious to know who actually is from the city that's doing it, because anecdotally, you hear a lot of people coming from. Sadly, I'm thinking of a tragic situation that happened at Temple University a couple of years ago. These people are coming from some of them are coming from the suburbs, are coming from Jersey. So I'd be really curious to know, and I don't know if it's probably not a simple solution, but who actually is from the city that's coming and doing these flash mobs. When I was out there for 2020 in the protests, we would hear the testimonies of people coming, why are you coming to my neighborhood to do this? Words like that out there. So I'd be curious that. So jobs for sure. Youth working, youth need to work, go to work, make your money, you stack your bread. Internships, after school programs for teens, I don't know if they'd go, but at least it'd be offered. And then two, I do believe that there is a segment of when that occurs that there's some people that aren't from our city who come and do that. I think just recently with the cars and twirling down City Hall, I think they arrested people that were not from Philadelphia. So where there's one, I have to believe that there's more. So yeah.
Thank you, Doc.
I like that. Thanks, Bart. I like that you. I like the idea of the podcast, because what that happens with the podcast, it allows them to have a voice also. So that's an outlet, right? And I think there needs to be more of that, them just venting, right? Whether they have all of the answers or not, it's them getting out, that monkey off their back, so to speak, right? And so I like that. I want to just say this one thing. So Liberty, again, said, thanks for tolerating my comments here. I enjoy your show. And Liberty, you can talk all you want. It's all good. This is what we do, right? And the reason we allow that is because it's people like that still has a voice. Everyone has a voice. That's democracy, right? So allow someone to at least express their opinion, whether you like it or not. We all have opinions.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. And that's what we do in the pod, too.
There you go.
And I say
For
it straight out that we welcome dissenting voices. Just because some are louder than others does not mean they're always right.
That's right.
And that they represent the majority.
There you go.
So it's the disagreements that make for excellent episodes, might I add, or excellent content. But agreed. And I think the students in my class will tell you that they feel comfortable even expressing their dissenting.
Fantastic,
opinions. You're absolutely welcome to do that.
Fantastic. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause. Wow. What an amazing interview. Spark, we had Spark talking all type of stuff. So that's cool. So one thing that we say on the show, again, once you come to the show, you're more than welcome to come back. But I want you to, one, tell everyone where they can find you, and again, amplify the youth podcast again.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Stephen Fleming. I'm mainly active on Twitter at KellyGrade6. That's the number 6, KELLYGRADE, the number 6. And my youth, my kids, my guys, my girls, we are at BEO Youth. It is the Behind the Eyes of Our Youth podcast. We're the mantra that a student came up with, where we talk about anything and everything. So it's at BEO Youth, and that is everywhere: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's it. Yeah. And we're on wherever you get your podcasts. We're out there: Apple, Spotify, etc.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, definitely the invitation is there. If you want to bring them, we'll give them a platform to talk a little bit. So again, thanks for the show. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure, and it's good to hear your voice. And one thing I do want to say, especially as it relates to the statistics and numbers of teachers in the schools, especially as it relates to black men, I think that the brother Sharif Al-Mekki is doing an excellent job in fighting against that and trying to amplify that. Come on, fellas, let's get in there. Absolutely. So shout out to Sharif Al-Mekki for his work and the things that he's doing. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in.